Okay, so moving on again, we are going to use some of these tools on other imagery. But again, you can see that they're very easy to use, they work quickly, and they're pretty powerful for editing. So I'm going to take these top two layers, well, I'll just take all these top layers here, and I'm going to hit Command G to group them into a folder, and I'm just going to name that donuts, and I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to go down to this layer 2 here. Now I'm going to go back and use content aware fill again, but before I do that, I'm going to show you another new tool, which is the object selection tool. So now we're familiar with the wand tool, and the magic wand, and the quick selection tool, which the quick key is W. Now another tool that's in this set of tools here is the object selection tool. So you can see that also is the quick key W, and as you know, Shift W will toggle to the different tools in that same in that same tool basically. And with this tool, you have options to use the lasso to select or a rectangle to select. So it's basically like using a marquee, rectangle, or the lasso tool within this object selection. So I'm going to just show you with the rectangle. You pick an area and it kind of selects the object that it thinks you're trying to select in that area. So now you can see it's selected most of this little hiker guy in here, but not all of it. And I'm going to hit Command D, deselect, and just show you again with the lasso tool. Again, like if you're using a regular lasso tool, quick key L, this works very similarly. So you just drag freehand, click and drag, and any point along this you can hold down the option key, and then you can keep the option key held the rest of the way if you want, and just click points inside wherever, and then even though I'm holding down option, I can still click and drag these kind of freehand paths, and again it selects most of this guy, but it's not really selecting these these bits in here. So if I wanted to go in, I can select it more perfectly, but for this purpose I actually think it's gonna work out better that it doesn't select everything, because then I can use some of the other tools. But with this selection I have, I'm gonna expand it, because what I'm trying to do is use the content aware fill again to get this hiker out of this picture. So I'm gonna go to select, modify, and expand, because what I want to do is I actually want to make this selection a little bit wider than what it picked up with that object selection tool. So I'm gonna say expand the selection by 6 pixels and hit OK, and then you can see what that did was it kind of just Command Z, and then you can see where the original selection was, and then going back to what I did, again I just modified that selection. Again, that's under select, modify, and expand. And the opposite of doing that, if you wanted to contract it, would be contract, and the number of pixels will just take that selection and kind of shrink it, while expanding kind of grew the selection a little bit. But that's kind of a nice selection. And again, I know it's not perfect. I don't have the arm in there, but I'm just going to go and I'm going to do that same content aware thing, which was edit, content aware fill, and then again I didn't create a new layer this time because I'm gonna output this to a new layer anyway, but same pop-up again because it's defaulting to the last thing I used, which is that custom sampling area. So I'll hit OK for now, but also if I want, I can hit auto and see what happens, and you can see it actually does a pretty good job, again, of kind of getting rid of the guy, most of him, the part that we didn't select, obviously. It still has his arm there, but that's okay. So I can hit OK, and again I'm outputting to a new layer here, so you can see down here where it says output to new layer, and again that will just, whatever content aware fill it's putting in that space, it's just adding a new layer. So you know, I can hit Command D to deselect, and again it's not perfect, so what I can do is I can use my spot healing brush. So again, I'm going to Shift J until I get to that spot healing brush, and you know that with, like, you know, any of these content aware things like clone tool or spot healing brush, if I click sample all layers, it won't just use stuff that's on this, you know, little layer that we added. It will sample from all layers. But I'm going to try the spot healing brush and see what happens. And you know what? Before I do that, I'm actually just going to make a copy of this layer, Command J. And then that way, if I don't get everything I need using the spot healing brush, I can, you know, merge these together and then kind of do whatever I need to do to get rid of that. And again, I'll hide this just so you can see the hiker dude is still there. But you know, again, I'm actually going to merge these now. So I'm going to select both of these layers, click on one and hold Shift and click on the other one, or hold Command and click on the other one, so they're both selected. And then Command E merges layers together. So again, even though that's a destructive change, I still have a copy underneath. So I'm going to hide it just to show you. But now I will, you know, go and use my spot healing brush to kind of get rid of some of these other areas. And again, like, this wasn't kind of perfect, you know, the way that it added some of these things in, so I might just get rid of some of these other details, or, you know, make it look a little bit more natural. So I think that's actually a pretty good job. You know, there's some discoloration in here, but that's kind of happening in a lot of different parts of this image. But I think that's okay. And again, I will show you, you know, just kind of, you know, even if I want to get perfect down here, you can see this area and this area are kind of the same. So maybe I'll just use the spot healing brush to clean some of this up, you know, where the shadows were and stuff of his foot. And then even if I want to clean up this little, you know, this kind of like lens flare that's happening here, I can do that too with the spot healing brush. So again, just a more, you know, advanced use of some of those tools, or taking something out that's a little more unpredictable, but that is pretty easy. And you know, I'm actually going to go down, I'm going to hide this again and just go back to that clone stamp again, because I want to show you that, you know, it will look kind of weird, but just to make the point of this, I'm going to create a new layer above this this base outdoor layer here, this hiking guy layer, and I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. And again, it's S to get to the clone stamp tool, and you know, again, sample all layers. So where I sample from, you know, let's say I sample from the foot here, you know, again, you're going to see the foot kind of in the clone stamp here, and but it's still adding it to this layer above here. So let's say, you know, again, I'm starting at that foot point. You can see that once I start clicking, that crosshair shows up on the original image where I sampled it from. You know, and again, I'm just making a copy of this guy, which this particular image, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you know, this could be helpful if you're trying to duplicate parts of another image and copy it. Clone stamp tool is one way to do it. And again, because I did it on a separate layer above and had sample all layers, I could turn this on and off. It is non-destructive. So I will continue on in the next part. Thanks.